We're right to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, firstly, can I welcome you all here today? And I'm so pleased to see so many of our constituents here, and I do thank you for coming. I'd like to particularly welcome Steve Gibbling from the council, who looks after the community board, and likewise we look after him. And Deepole as well, very warm welcome, and the council staff as they come in, we will introduce them. So as usual, I'll just go round. John Very, Deputy Chair, Phil Freeman, Calvin Payne, and of course Councillor Glidden. Sian is unfortunate, can't be here at the meeting today, but she is on air with us, so we'll continue on and just get through the meeting as best we can. So there's no need to have any apologies because Sian is with us. Are there any identifications of any extraordinary business? Nothing there?
Yeah, I do, Bruce.
Sian?
Yeah, I do. Can we please discuss Selwyn Award nominations during extraordinary business?
Okay, thank you. Right, conflicts of interest. Has anybody got any conflicts of interest? Steve, correspondence.
Yep.
Nothing? Okay.
Sorry. Yes.
John? Oh, yes, right. Oh, yes. Okay. So where do you want to deal with it? Yeah,
So with the correspondence, I think Mr. Very is going to just present the letter. Is that correct, John?
Do you want to present it?
Were you going to speak on behalf of the writers group? No. Okay. All right. Yeah. So on behalf of the Melbourne Writers Group, the writer of the letter was unable to attend. So it's self-explanatory, and it's a group that get together and do creative writing. They're having a book launch on the 28th of June at 1:30 in the Darfield Library, and they're asking whether or not the board would be able to provide $80 so that they can get some laminated posters to advertise the event. But it's all in the letter, and I'm only presenting it because the writer wasn't able to be here today.
Yeah, thank you, John. What I would ask you to do is with the board to consider, seeing it's some money involved, can we discuss this in general business? I think we bring it up then at that stage, and by that stage we'll have time to think about it. And you might like to, John, or anybody else, just elaborate a wee bit further on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Public forum. Now, who have we got down to speak, Deepo? Do we, somebody has, hey? Nari, you're booked in? By all means, Nari, take the chair. No, sit up there and put your microphone on.
Okay.
Probably put it down a wee bit so we can hear you, Nari. Thank you.
Okay, is that better? Now, all I want to do is bring up the Anzac Lane and just going into the reserve. There is a dip.
Sorry, Nari.
Yep.
Can you just sit a wee bit closer? You're dealing with a chairman here that's half deaf. And you should be used to that with your husband.
I'm used to that.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, Anzac Lane, and going into the reserve, there's always been a dip there. Now, there's actually been a couple of nasty accidents, and that I say, the day we had our Anzac Lane service, one lady fell over, tripped in one, and she hurt her back. She's had to have physiotherapy. But prior to that, and it's actually a neighbour who lives about 2 doors away, she fell over in the bad dip, and she ripped the muscle from her bone, and she's had to have surgery, and she's been off work for 6 weeks with the surgery, which is not really very good. Apparently, I do believe it has been mentioned before to the council, and David Stott, who's on our committee, he actually took some of the dirt from where we dug out the Anzac, the memorial, and he spread it over there, but I would like the whole thing checked. Well, our committee, and I think that's not too much to ask. Just, yeah. I mean, we don't want all our, community falling over. And heaps of people use that every day. And as I say, David has spread soil there, but yeah. Yep, that's it. Yeah.
No, I think we'll take that away as an action, Nairi. I'll
Thank you.
pass it on to Kieran,
Thank
who
you.
will hopefully be here a little bit later on this afternoon,
Yep.
who's our Parks and Reserves Operations
Yep.
Manager, and we'll get him to come out and have a look at that.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Now, while we haven't got anybody else booked in, we've got a few more moments if you wish to, anybody wants to speak to us in public forum. Yeah, Brian.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Come up to the table, please, Brian.
Just to clarify, Mr. Chairman, I understand what Mr. Verry's talking about now with the writers group, and I'm happy to elaborate on that later on in the meeting. I can clarify what the letter's about.
I'm having trouble hearing today. This is too much resounding in here.
Okay. So Brian's prepared to speak.
Oh, right. So, okay. Look, thank you, Brian.
I think
you.
just procedurally, I think, Brian, maybe do you want to just elaborate on it now? So when the board get to debate it
Yeah.
in the general
If you
business,
can
then
do
they
it
can
now,
do
that'd
so.
be great.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. So the Malvern Writers Group is made up of 13 or 14 writers in the area. And what we've done is we've produced a book of writing various stories, poetry. And the reason behind the request for the $80 is to cover posters so that we can promote the book, promote the publication, and also the event that will lead to having the book published out there in the general area. So that's why we're asking for the $80. We put a lot of work into it. The book is currently being published as we speak, and that money is purely so that we can put posters out and make everyone aware that there is a writers group, and it is producing a book. It's a Malvern Writers Cafe, and it's a local event that we're going to hold where we'll invite various people to come along to the opening, buy the book if they want.
Okay, well, what I intend to do is to bring this up under general business because, it's something that we can debate at that stage. So hopefully we'll make a decision today on that particular.
All right, that's fine. Thank you for your time.
So there may be some questions that the board or may wish to ask. So just give it some thought and we'll make a decision later on in the meeting. If there's nobody else wishes to speak at this stage, we'll now move into the agenda. Item 5, the confirmation of the minutes. Is somebody prepared to move that, please? Thank you, John. Seconded, Phil. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Are any matters arising from? If not, I will put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Now we move on to the actions of those minutes. Steve, would you like to make comments, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, we've gone through the actions. The first one was around an update on the West Melbourne Rec Centre car park and courts upgrade. The team are currently reviewing the scope of works and will bring back a report as to what is actually able to be delivered later on. And we talked about the timing of when that project would occur, and so that should happen within the next couple of months. So I think we'll keep this as an eye on the action list as something to keep bringing back. But at this stage, it's still in until we've identified what the budget and the scope can actually afford. In terms of the security camera installation, probably half the answer. So we've received the quote from the Darfield Residents Association via Harvey. We're not aware of how this is to be funded, and which is to say we're still working on the dollars. So we will bring a result back to the board as soon as we can on that. In terms of the, again, raised at the last meeting around the condition of the flag in Darfield at the cenotaph, the council staff have now ordered a replacement flag, and that should be being delivered at some stage within the next month or so. The finance workshop at the board, I think we ran a fairly productive session on the 12th of May, and the result of this is on my paper today for a decision. And then I might pass over to Councillor Glidden just to touch on the speed limit changes on State Highway 73.
So thank you. It's actually in my report today, so we can discuss it there.
Thank you.
And the last action was around changing the room bookings so that we've got a little bit more time to have the board meetings on a monthly basis. So,
Okay.
take any questions.
Could I just say at this stage, in regards to the existing playground equipment currently here, some of you may or may not remember when this pavilion was built, there was something like about 500,000 raised by the community to actually help build this building. One of the people who who gave us a donation was Martinican Contracting. They gave us 10,000, 5,000 in capital and 5,000 for equipment. And so it is still there. Now, while the management of McClinnicans has changed, I haven't had time to go around and talk to them yet, but I believe that that may be a help to get our playground more up to spec than perhaps what council may be envisaging, because I'm quite sure that McClinnicans won't go back on their contract. I'm quite sure they won't. So it's a matter that I'm announcing that publicly because I think there was no, shall we say, anything written on that by McClinnicans. And he did say to me at that time they would give 5,000 as a monetary donation and 5,000 when it was needed to upgrade any or to help in the upgrade of the children's playground. So that might be something that we just wish to record at this
So I
stage.
think if we'll make a note of that in the minutes, and it might be an action on yourself, Mr. Chair, and I, maybe along with Kieran, to go and have a bit of a chat afterwards and see what the approach might look like.
Yep, thank you, appreciate that. If there's nothing further on, oh, sorry, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In relation to the security cameras in the Darfield jail, the chair of the Darfield Residents Association has asked me to speak as he's unable to be here, and just want to record that in the original setting of the jail, there was a security system and cameras organised by the council, and it would just be duly noted that it's a continuation rather than a new event. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Very. Yes, I'd agree mostly with what you've said. I think the change that we are looking at now is that the security system itself won't be plugged into the council infrastructure. It will connect into the local police. And so it is a different system in terms of how the approvals and the wiring work. So mostly agree.
Okay, then the final comment would be, obviously it's going to save the council maintenance in the long term. So maybe a plug could be made for some capital funding.
Steve, your executive report, please.
Yeah, thank you. So look, I'm going to take the report as read. I'm just going to touch on a couple of the key points there. One of the actions from a previous meeting was to provide an update on the range of central government services in Darfield. So my colleague Denise Kidd has provided a list of those services that we've been able to identify. I guess I also wanted to share with the community board and the community in the attachment a list of the planned consultations coming up that will have some bearing on the delivery of services within the Melbourne Community Board. And so provided that, and happy to take any questions. I think the key decision, I guess, apart from receiving my report, is to then approve the budget. And I want to thank the board for joining me and some of my team, some of our council team, on the budget workshop, and we identified a range of options and a number of issues. And for the community members in the room, largely what we discussed is as written in my report, which touches on what's the current state of the budget, what's our starting position, what would be the planned year-end position with the forecast reserves. We talked about what's changed and in particular the impact of the representation review and the change of the West Melton community being moved out of the Melbourne Community Ward as a result of the Electoral Commission's decisions. And what was the dollar impact and how did that materialise? And so we've touched on the figures there. We've also talked about the assumptions that we've made for the upcoming financial year. The first is that the rates will be the same as signalled in the LTP for the targeted rate for the Melbourne ward, which means that we won't be making changes to that in the context of a changed operating position with the residents of West Melton moving out. We have taken the assumption that the operating budget would stay largely the same. And we've also made the note that the budget is a holding transition budget because of a couple of sort of decisions that we're proposing to make. One is that, this has been a consistent debating point at the community board, which is around the targeted support charge that the council applies to the Melbourne Community Board. And that basically sets the structure of the targeted rate for the residents of the community. It pays for things like staff time, but it also pays for things like the licenses, the IT, all of the things that go to serve the board and the meetings. So these are the assumptions that we've taken into this. And the proposed budget, as we're putting today, is that on the basis of it's a transition, and we've got quite a significant amount of change, especially from a dollar figure. And because we don't really have a targeted support charge, we've got more of a formula that's applied across the board, that we're proposing to reduce the support charge to $30,000. We're also on that basis proposing that there is no use of the reserve, so that gives the future community board as much of that reserve at their disposal as that they see fit, and that there provides a small minor uplift in the board operating expenditure on the basis that, as what was noted in the representation review, that the delegations for the community board should also be looked at so that there is meaningful and actual work that this board can do. And so that's the basis of which I presented the budget today. We did talk about a number of other options, which could include things like retaining the current support charge, reducing the number of meetings, or increasing the targeted rate. And again, those things don't quite fit within our ability and current decision making. Because we would need to consult with our community around any changes to those rates. But also in terms of that support charge, we really do need to drill into the actual time and effort that goes into supporting this and doing it properly. So that's why we're proposing this transition budget. It would naturally then be worked on with the board, both the current board and as we transition to the new board post-election, so that for the next and upcoming annual plan, when it goes out to public consultation, that we will have a clear rationale for the support charges and your operating budget. But yeah, that's my report. Mr. Chair, happy to take any questions on it.
Okay, first of all,
I'd like to thank
got us on.
I'd like to thank Mr. Gibbling for listening, but not only listening, but also hearing. And I think it's a good step forward and it's positive. Just one point of clarification, that I assume the targeted rate for those in West Melton will cease at the 30th of June 2025.
No, one of the quirks of the Local Government Act is that we can only set rates once, and so that targeted rate will cease from the 1st of July 2025.
So that would be the same question what you've asked anyway, John. You say the 30th of June.
Sorry.
Steve's saying the 1st
Yes.
of July.
Apologies.
So I mean, it's
I
the
heard a
same.
different month.
It's
Sorry.
answering to, it is answer to your question.
You're just trying to fool an old guy.
Calvin?
Yeah, I'd like to reinforce John's comments and to Steve and council for listening and for making a significant adjustment. Obviously, we needed something because of the significant changes that have come about because of the representation review, but it's allowed us to, instead of look at a minus 30,000 a year budget, which is where we started, we're now looking at a zero budget, i.e. non-profit making, which is what we should be as a community board, I believe. So that's really positive. And John's comment asking that us West Melton members of the community board won't be paying the targeted rate, but it's also good that we're maintaining the surplus that we currently have around the same number, which allows the future board to make their own decisions and hopefully distribute some funds within the community. And maybe a little bit of that might be able to come back to West Melton. I've got to keep that one in there. But but that's really good and it's really positive, and we can bring, as long as we can maintain that money in the community. And I understand from what's been said that the targeted rate may be reviewed. And obviously the council support charge on a more realistic basis will be reviewed, and that will all be part of the new board, which I think is really positive for the community here. We've been able to do that at this time, and thanks again, Steve, for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Sean?
Yep, thank you. I just wanted to touch on the first part of your report, if I can, Steve, around the community services and providers offered in the Melbourne area. Would it be possible to get more of an extensive report in relation to the Heartlands funding allocation to the Melbourne ward and the numbers, but more detail, please?
Yeah, we can throw that into our action list, John, and I can then work with Denise and our team to bring back a more fulsome report on that. Is there anything in particular that you're looking for in terms of more detail?
Specifically, well, I'm looking at the numbers that have been provided from January to May of utilisation. They're looking quite low for Melbourne, and I'm just in my mind wondering if we are utilising the funding in the right areas, or if we could utilise the funding in areas that are of higher demand in the social service space.
Well, thank you. We've got that in the actions.
Thank you.
Is there any other further discussion on Steve's report? Could I just say, Steve, on behalf of the board, I do sincerely thank you for the way that you have brought the different ideas forward for the board to consider. I felt the finance meeting that we had while we had it on air, it was very, very progressive. And I think we've got guidelines now, not only on our budget, but on the proposals of perhaps seeking more delegations for us as a community board. So we are doing more for our constituents than what has previously been allowed. So as chairman of the board, I thank you most sincerely. Right, so I'll now put the motion.
It's just the two recommendations.
Yeah, and we'll do, first of all, we received the board, all in favour of that? Thank you.
Aye.
And the other one is approve the budget that has been listed, be it within our board reports. Is there somebody prepared to move that we accept the budget? John, seconded, Phil, any further discussion on it? If not, I will put that motion as well. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those carried. Thank you. Right, we may move now on to, yeah, this here. Do that. Karen, where would you like to go, Karen? Don't go too far away. This is item 8 on the agenda.
Am I on and working? Perfect. Thank you all for having me here today. Again, I will take this report as read. I wasn't 100% sure what the board wanted to know from me, so I've got a few little bits that have been dripped through that I included in the report that I can provide a little bit more information on. So, bit of an update on the Kirby playground. So we worked with the manufacturer to do a bit of a review. So both our contractor and the manufacturer have now been on site, and the equipment was installed incorrectly. So that will be being remedied by the manufacturer at their cost. So no cost to the council for that. So that's the some matting being added to decrease the drop off the slides, and some extra handrails as well. Additional to that, we will be adding some extra softball into that area just to really improve that for those kids that use it. And just to reiterate, that is money for upgrades in the 2026-27 financial year, which we have started to work or have conversations with the community around what the needs for that are required to be. Moving on to our open spaces work program. So just to reiterate that the reserves team are really focusing on rebuilding connections with the community, with the board and others. So we have just recruited our new contract lead, who's Kaylee, who I brought along today just to get a feel and know some faces in the room. So that's a key step for us in really managing our contract better, managing our community relationships better, and being more intentful around that. It's really important in terms of how we operate our schedule that the board understands that we don't have a hard and fast on a Tuesday. The turf will be cut at X reserve at X time. It's all to do with weather conditions, conditions of the reserve, and other needs and demands as well. There's a level of service that has to fit within. And we as staff do audits to ensure that they're compliant and sat generally where they should be. So there is a bit of flex because it is a window for that to meet that level of service. The only exceptions to that are cleaning of toilets and playground safety inspections, which I'm sure you can all agree are pretty important that they're done regularly. As I think I mentioned prior at the last Residents Association meeting, the snap, send solves are really critical. I know that there is definitely a perception that reserves officers should be out there seeing everything all the time. There are 6 reserves officers and about 600 reserves. So it'd be a little bit hard to see everything. So that partnership with the community is really, really key, and building trust that when things are unsafe or not meeting community expectations, that we can partner together and the communication is really strong and progressive. Lastly, I'll just touch on the fact that there is quite a bit of work going on throughout the area. So looking at some signage replacements, looking with a few key individuals to really just kind of add some additional value to some of those reserves outside of what is just regular maintenance and ongoing work. So got a discussion with Sean around some work at the Darfield Jail and some signage replacement around the area as well. I'll leave it there and you guys can discuss or ask any further questions.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Board, anybody? Sharon, please. Sharon?
Hey, Karen, thank you so much for your presentation today. I just wanted to say that I've seen since the Combined Residents Association meeting that you attended, I've seen some agendas where you are addressing, or your team's addressing, things like accessibility playgrounds, which was one of the things that was raised in that meeting. And looking at your program work, I can see that there's some stuff in there that came out the back of the combined RA meeting. So I just want to thank you for hearing us and listening to people and taking it on board and bringing things into your line of sight. I think one of the things that was really concerning for the residents was a lack of annual plan this year, but you've shown that the voices are still heard and work can still get done. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Sean. Yeah, Councillor Lydia.
Thank you,
Lydia?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Karen, I just note that there's 200 redwoods to go in at McHugh's. And I just wanted to understand why we couldn't plant redwood at Kauai Pass.
That is a good question, and one that I don't have all of the information to answer correctly at the moment. I know that there has been ongoing discussions with different arboriculturists around that, so happy to go away, find further information and come back to you at a later date with a more intricate answer.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Karen, for your presentation today. And thank you from the Kirwi community, because for grabbing hold of that issue with the playground as quickly as you have. And sounds like we've got a good result for one, the community, and 2, the council, when that something was missed there and we've got to the bottom of it and got it sorted, hopefully really quickly, which will be really good. And I'm really looking forward to the upgrades in 26, 27 and making them totally accessible. That's awesome. Thank you.
John?
Thank you, Karen. Just in relation to cutting of the reserves, and William Hyde Place is the specific, and a declaration that I live in the neighbourhood, but I'm sort of get henpicked, so I said I would ask that it's understandable that it gets long. It was cut and just left to lie in rows, and children being children, came home from school and kicked it, and then it goes through the house. So somebody sent a snap, send and solve, and the next day, very efficient, someone came and did exactly the same with a mower, no catcher. Is there a policy around, if you've got it in an industrial or a large area, I can understand it doesn't matter so much if there's grass left to lie, but for the reserves that are a bit closer to built up areas, is there a policy?
Yeah, there is, and I have actually seen the photos from that snap, send, solve, and the condition that was left in wasn't great, and the fact that it was revisited, closed off, told us it was done, and it was still looking, there was still a lot of windross around, was not ideal. So I can completely empathise with you there, and it's probably not quite good enough, so we have to wear that. That reserve is a grade 2 reserve, which most of our kind of neighbourhood reserves are. The only sites where we use catches is grade 1, which is our high profile sites. So that's ornamental reserves, memorials, some sports fields and cemetery burial areas. Everywhere else is open cut, and on the premise that when the weather conditions are right, you get there and it's never an issue. However, when you have prolonged periods of wet weather, as I'm sure most of you guys will understand, it's hard to maintain that and cut as regularly as we would like. So it's an outcome of how that is written into our contracts.
No, thank you for that. The other one, partnerships with the community in relation to reserves. And there seems to be throughout the more rural and outlying districts in the ward, a wish for people to contribute, and especially where there may be a sort of travel time involved. And a couple of suggestions, and I'm not looking for a answer now, but I said I would raise it, would be, is there flexibility when you're working through the partnerships to have maybe community input and looking after it so that it becomes a tripartite thing between council, CORD and the community?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're exploring some of those at the moment. So I'm actually going up to Arthur's Pass Village on Wednesday just to have a chat with Chris up there and the community, just to try and see where that triangulation of input can work. There are obviously at times safety concerns that need to be considered, where it means it is not viable in on the side of state highways, for example, probably isn't the best spot, but trying to work with the community to identify where that input and work can be done is really important. And I'm quite looking forward to having more of these conversations as we move forward to really share that ownership, share the work that goes into those spaces for superior community outcomes.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Karen, could I say on behalf of the board, firstly, welcome and thank you for taking the time to bring us up to date. I certainly appreciate that. Could I have a motion, please, that we accept Karen's report? John, seconded Kelvin. Thank you. I put that motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Right, we move now on to item 9, and I welcome James Richmond.
The dramatic pause for effect. Sorry, we're just working out the technology if you're watching online, Sean. Sorry.
Ready to
Everybody.
go?
I think we're,
Okay,
hang on, let me kill this.
a warm welcome.
Thank you very much. Hey, look, I'm gonna, introduce Adele first. So I'm going to work through the agenda backwards here a little bit. So bear with us while we do that. This is Adele Orangi. Adele is the play advocate for council. So Adele's role is actually funded by Sport New Zealand, and part of her role is to look at play throughout the district and figure out what role council can and can't play in that space. Adele's been with us for nearly 2 years, and I hope to have her contract extended by Sport New Zealand in the coming months. So it's been really good having her on board and just really starting to get her teeth into some projects, which has been great. I'll let Adele talk specifically to Darfield neighbourhood play systems in a moment, but what I thought I'd do is just outline what neighbourhood play system is. It's a bit of a new initiative. There's been a handful done in Canterbury so far, but we think this one is actually the first rural neighbourhood play system that's been completed in New Zealand. Effectively what it does is it looks at a spot on the map as part of a community. Usually that's a school or another significant asset such as a community centre or something like that, and works around it to figure out what play opportunities are available. We engage with whānau, we engage with children and figure out what the best way forward for that community is. Adele's done that recently in Darfield, and yeah, I'll throw to her to talk to it, and then happy to have questions at the end. I'm conscious that that's not working online. If anyone wants to provide assistance. Oh, so long.
Okay, I'll just start. Hi, thanks everybody. So as James mentioned, these are being done around the country, and this was the first rural school. It's also, as many of you know, it's the only primary school in Darfield. And recently they have been closing their gates due to vandalism. And so we wanted to go in and have a chat to sort of see if, one, we could help with information about opening their gates, what could we do to help there, a development of their new senior playground, and also with Sport New Zealand, they have a healthy active learning initiative. However, the Selwyn schools are not in that, so we don't have somebody from Sport Canterbury in the school. So we're looking at how our council can help support play around the school and in the neighbourhood. So we cover 4 topics. The first is the built and natural environment, and there is a really good sense of satisfaction from the tamariki and their families with the amount of play spaces and open spaces that Darfield has. The upgraded pool obviously was a hit, as is the addition of the pump track. The existing facilities that we have, like the skate park, McHugh's Forest, the Domain and the library, all featured really heavily when we interviewed the students. I guess the biggest thing, and it probably doesn't come as any surprise to you, is that independent mobility. So whether that's walking or wheeling between playgrounds to sporting facilities is a real concern with the lack of calming measures on the road. Some of the spaces don't have footpaths, and just around the school in general, there was more cars than probably we would like to see, especially during pick-up and drop-off times. The families and the tamariki were generally aware of play and sporting opportunities in Darfield, and most of that is word of mouth or the local pages. And they do like participating in things like the Bricktacular, which has always been a hit, and was obviously a fundraiser for the PTA. However, this year it's not happening. The enjoyment side of things, they do say that they liked the amount of spaces and what was offered. However, by not being able to get there meant that their options were limited. So it was either the playground just down the road, which they sort of outgrew the challenge of. The school engagement, so we had workshops with the senior students,
a workshop which took us around the outside the block of the school, and they explained to us why they didn't use certain parts, how they got to school, why they did or didn't use the skate park. And we also did surveys with staff. We interviewed the principal and deputy principal. We had surveys for families, and then we had community engagement with a couple of the PTA members, with the provider for the after school program, community workers and members of that offer the REC programs. And we definitely saw themes, and that was around the issues crossing the main road and where the majority of the play spaces were. So the draft findings were around road safety and independent mobility, calming measures, especially over drop-off and pick-up times on State Highway 73. And one thing that we noticed is that the children were sometimes catching the bus over to the high school, which is less than 500 metres, because there's no footpath on the school side to get them over there. So in addition to the footpath, or an extension of the footpath, would be fantastic on Cardale to McLaughlin's. And also some of them would like a footpath a little further afield down past Stott Drive. One of the biggest things, I think, is also the fact that some of the children that go on the school bus, that school bus zone starts at 3.2 Ks, and if you do a grid around the school, there's no footpaths, and it's probably 80 to 100 Ks. So it is. So then we'll bring more cars into the school. They did like the spaces, but they wanted a bigger range of age, and they also would like shade and picnic tables so that they could spend longer at these places. The reason we chose Darfield is because in the long-term plan, there's looking at 2 indoor courts out that way. And so thinking about where they would use it, whether the schools, both the primary and the secondary, would be able to utilise them during the day. And also the opportunity to offer a broader range of equipment, including accessible equipment at the playground.
James, can you please mute your PC?
I have the unfortunate thing, it's a lag in the system here, so I'm about 45 seconds behind whatever happens.
So we were really pleased with the draft findings, because that is sort of in line with some of the things that I know Roading and the school transport safety advisor has noted as well. So obviously it was just adding the family's voices and the Tamariki's voice to that. With regard to opening the school gates, that will be an ongoing conversation, but hopefully we'll get there with a new playground, may bring new interest into the school, and obviously that will help be its own security. Has anyone got any questions that they would like?
I just at this stage thank both Adele and James. I'm going to, would somebody move that we accept the report? John, Phil has seconded. It's now open for discussion. Any questions from the board? John?
Yeah, no, look, it's a wonderful initiative. And just for the record, on Monday, there was a member of the New Zealand Police sort of providing expertise and looking at the safety of students as they left school and crossed State Highway 73. So I think the interagency cooperation is working well. And I noticed that the draft is available in May. Is it possible to have a copy sent to each board member, please? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we just received that this
Sean?
last week.
Sean,
Um,
did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say it was really good to see this presentation. So I was involved with a targeted consultation in relation to an aquatic centre in Darfield, and there were some questions around access from myself because I'm a parent of a child who goes to Darfield Primary School and children who go to Darfield High School. Their sports is at the Domain, which is always on the other side of the state highway, and it is a concern when it comes to safety for our children when they do access facilities around Darfield. And it's a hard one because, you know, you've got your pump track and tennis courts and netball courts and stuff on one side of Darfield, but then you've got a lot of new subdivisions going in on the other side of the state highway. So I think, you know, the level of engagement that you're having with the families is great. It's wonderful to see. And I look forward to seeing how your draft comes out.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Lydia?
Thanks for the report. Can we get the slides sent so we can have a bit more info? I think it was supposed to be attached to the report here, but we don't have that. So that would be great. And just some of the things you talked about, the footpath from the primary to the high school is currently in construction at the moment, which is super exciting for good connectivity between the two schools. And you're dead right, the school bus funding and criteria review has been detrimental to our kids and private transport to school, which is a real shame to see. So I'm still waiting to hear back from the ministers after writing a stern letter to them. And I've been told from NZTA that we could have some engagement around State Highway 73 in July. So I'll keep pushing on those things.
Thank you.
Probably one of the things to consider around this too is this is the first one we're doing, and although there's not endless amounts of resource in this space, we do want to prioritise doing some more down the track. And as Port New Zealand develops this model a little bit better, we'll be able to hopefully roll it out with a sort of an NPS light. So without going into quite as much detail, but still getting the same level of outcome. And Adele will hopefully be able to manage that mostly herself. So I guess that's a signal to think about what other priority areas you may have, and obviously align that with any funding that we have in the long-term plan to upgrade a playground or reserve.
These are mainly done around primary schools. However, we are noting that the sort of year 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is a real gap in the play market, and that may be something that we look into to help. I mean, just even out here, what is there for the youth besides the skate park for them to actually play on? So it's looking and trying to get their information about what they would like to see in play spaces that challenge them.
Yes, could I just make comment in regards to this skate park here? We seem to have a lot more different things to perhaps to what you've got up there, because you mentioned like we've got a barbecue area, we've got all that sort of thing, and you know this is very well used. So when your skate park was designed, was that professionally designed or was it just
In Darfield, yeah, that was professionally designed. They all go through a professional design process and peer review.
And so was it? It was obviously designed differently to our one here, though.
Correct.
Yeah, right. Because this one here seems to be more than adequate for what for what we've got. It's certainly well used, from sort of walking babies, if you like, up to adults using it. It's and you probably have you not got that sort of thing up at Darfield?
It's the ability to get to it safely. I mean, here there's light, so it doesn't matter if you live on.
Yes,
the
agreed.
centre.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then really you're only catering to those that are, I call it north of 73, because they're on that side. They only have to deal with the railway line. So families not wanting their children to go over that road is a real barrier.
Yes, I can appreciate that. You've got a different problem there. So, I mean, we still want to get our speed limit lowered, but the lights are a tremendous help. There's no question about that.
And the speed limits
Yes.
do have the variable, but again, it's only at that drop-off pickup time. So there's really no way for a child to utilise it like in the weekend. And so that's a real issue as well.
Yeah. Could I, just before Lydia speaks, could I say, we only waited 25 years to get our lights. So you've got a couple of days yet to go. Lydia.
Well, we're not even asking for lights. We just want a safe crossing point, which would be good. Maybe like a light activated pedestrian crossing would be ideal.
Thank you. Is there any other comments?
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, thank you both for your presentation. I will now put the motion that we accept the report. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Move on. Ben. Could I welcome Ben Blair, Bird? Yeah. So I do welcome you here, Ben. You're becoming a familiar face, and I do thank you for the work that you're doing at the present time.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate waiting for the summary report back from our engagement over summer. And so it's attached here. I'll just run through some of the highlights from that work and we can talk about that. And I can also give a quick summary of the area plan process that we're doing it in general. That would have been what was presented to the Housing Committee a couple of weeks ago as well. So it's the same stuff. So we can have a conversation about that. So it's one of our, the Future Town early engagement stuff we did over the summertime. It's one of our most extensive engagements that the council has run. We talked to like 900 people. We've had about almost 5,000 visits to the website and 2,500 crowd map comments, pins, plots put onto our map for us to go through. We also ran 8 World Cafes. One of them was with the community board in January, I think, and had the Rural Edge Connector van out visiting some of the other communities outside as well. So the report attached is quite long. It goes through each of the areas, and then breaks down each of the kind of priorities within that. So we talk about our priorities in terms of blue-green housing, economy, infrastructure, people and community, and transport. So just in regards to blue-green, some of our parks and spaces that people are wanting to see more parks, more playgrounds, and I think it fits well with what Adele was talking about before, like being able to get to these parks for kids to be able to use different spaces as well as accessing across that state highway. That is a key issue in lots of our towns, not just for Darfield, but lots of the towns in the district. And so that is seen as a real barrier to some of our towns that can feel like they're a bit split if they have a highway through the middle of them. So it's figuring out and working with Waka Kotahi NZTA on that, like we got here on West Melbourne. 25 years, hopefully we can do it a little bit quicker than that. So hopefully all those kind of feedback is on the map and we can work through those area plan options with that. In terms of housing, people talked about wanting to see more intensive housing, but just in the right places and in the right scale, depending on the town that it is in. And it's even thinking about, like for Lincoln, having stuff that's more affordable versus for students, as well as in some of our other towns where we're having more older people that they want different kinds of housing to be able to stay in the town that they have been in for a while, but have the appropriate house for it. Lots of feedback on different things that in the commercial sense, in terms of having more than just your kind of day-to-day needs, but some more weekly needs met in your towns. That's thinking about having a Mitre 10 somewhere, that's being proposed like in Rolleston, but as these towns grow, some of these other towns will need these things, some more entertainment things, more than just some cafes. We want to see some stuff like cinemas or bowling, something for kids to do as well, and connect some more different kinds of shops or supermarkets as well. The feedback around infrastructure was to do it well, deal with those issues around the flooding, in both in the rural and urban areas, as well as in the community space and the people space. People wanting to see have all the opportunities there with pools and schooling and healthcare opportunities. And transport is, lots of people want to see better public transport and safer cycleways and safer ways to walk through our towns, as well as getting between the towns as well. So that's a quick summary of the report. There's lots of detail in there. Hopefully it's a good resource in the future for people to be able to look back and sort of get a good feel of what the community said, because there was a lot of feedback on that. And so on page 77 of your report is the West Melton World Cafe summary. So that's the feedback that we ran with you guys in that setting. And we'll just jump to the last presentation bit on the area plans in general. Just do a quick summary of how it all fits together. So last year we did Waikiri Kiri Katoa, Future Selwyn. We had some workshops with you back then. We signed that off as our kind of overarching strategic document for the council and for the district. And so that kind of sets our big outcomes that we want to see happen for our district over a very long time. And so these area plans are a spatial way of showing how we may get to that point, and show us some of the steps and the investments and the changes we need to see in our towns to achieve that outcome that we've set. There's lots of other ways that we can do that, and there'll be some other actions and other changes to the district plan eventually that we'd have to get to. But right now we're focused on getting these area plans right, so they can help inform the LTP in 27 and some of those other key documents into the future. We've approached the district into 3 areas. So we've got the Melbourne area, which doesn't match the current ward boundaries. It matches to the eastern boundary, which is based on the Greater Christchurch boundary. So that Greater Christchurch includes West Melton, and that line doesn't really change over time. The Melbourne one is centred around Darfield and up, and so it's just a technicality. It doesn't matter, like these things should integrate across each other. They're not going to be like this is one, this is the other, but it's just trying to a way of us breaking down these the area into some more manageable chunks, probably not manageable at all. And there's the Ellesmere one as well, centred around Leaston, and the eastern one with Rolleston, Lincoln, Preelton. So what we've done is we've got our early engagement that we've worked over summer that gives us heaps of good community feedback. We're looking into those topics as well about how best practice in terms of area planning. We're trying to come up with different ways to approach how we put different activities onto our towns, and looking at all the different constraint maps, information, and exploring different what the rural spaces around our urban towns means, and coming up with some options to present back to the community later this year. And so we're just saying, well, in the Melbourne area, say, do we want to focus on having more of the investment into Darfield and making it easier for people to get to Darfield? And that comes with a lot of efficiencies around investments and scale of activity, versus having more in the towns around it. That's a bit more harder to achieve, but it kind of helps each community be as it is. So we'll try and present these different options for everyone to look at and to be able to give their feedback. I like this element of this one, I like this bit of this one, and try and put together what they want to see in there. I think that's probably enough from me. I'm happy to just take some questions on the early engagement report and the area plan process. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Ben. Could I have a motion then that we accept Ben's report? And thank you, Phil. Second to John. Oh, sorry, Sian. We'll put Sian as the seconder. Okay. So, okay, it's open for discussion. Could I just say, in your report, you're saying, concentrating on perhaps major areas rather than the outlying areas. I know, like Greendale wanted something, Colgate wanted something. What you're sort of proposing, was this the feeling from the community as a whole, like to centre it more in the central area?
That's just what we've done is created some options for us to consider how you could do that. So one option is to say, let's put it all inside Darfield in the main town and make it really easy for people to get there and have the larger scale, more efficient use of those spaces. Versus the other option is let's put it all in the other, all in all towns so they have a little bit. But that's also harder to do as a council. You got to spend a little bit more on having a pool and everything, and it's costly, and whether we want to do that or not. So it's just presenting those options back to the community and saying, hey, you've said you want to achieve this, it could have it here or here. What one do you like? And trying to get them get their feedback on how it could work. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the way Ben's described that and the options are on page 98 of your report, which is the three very different approaches to way in which towns and cities and smaller urban areas can grow. And I think Ben's described it. So it's not a proposal, but it's coming back off the feedback, and this will be put back to our community for their views about, you know, what do they see and how do they see their communities growing in the future.
Yeah, and each option is valid and it achieves our overall direction in Waikirikiri Katoa. It's not saying, I'm not coming saying this is the one I want, this is better or worse. I'm just saying this is three different ways we can do that and achieve the stuff that the community has told us. So there's really community input needed to drive the decisions that we make.
Any further questions? John?
Yeah, no, given the valuable information in the report, just a general question that under safety on page 32, there were multiple high-risk intersections identified. So I'm not very familiar with functioning of councils, but does it go from the strategy department through the roading department so they can get the community feedback on what are the high-risk intersections? And also on page 49, that residents shared concerns about the higher and booking deposit costs of community halls and facilities. So does that get shared with the community facilities development area?
I can have a crack at answering that, and then I'll throw to Ben for any gaps or omissions. What we had with our long-term plan and development last year and the period of time leading up to that was we were working concurrently on Future Selwyn and the long-term plan. And what we're using and what their approach for our upcoming long-term plan, which will be 27, done and sort of signed off in June 27, is that this, instead of being concurrently done, this document and the area plans will have a far greater influence on our long-term plan. And as you know, that this document will then drive down into our infrastructure strategy, into our long-term plan and our various annual plans. That then we're also working on our operating model at the moment, which then brings it down into our work plans and individual work plans. So we're really creating, as an organisation, creating a really stronger line of sight from the strategic document that our community is driving and informing down into our individual plans of attack for staff members. So we're really trying to focus on that. Some of the discrepancies in the timing of feedback is just the base of the timing of when the two documents were done. We're hoping to improve that for the next round. Ben, is there anything else to add?
Yeah, just those specific feedback that we've got. I don't think I've gone through and highlighted each bit and passed it to those departments. The key for this is for us to inform those options that we bring back and make sure that when people say there's an intersection issue, that we are identifying something that can help alleviate that or addressing something in there. So that's part of that feedback. But hopefully we'll keep working on the fact that the rest of the council staff are aware of this feedback and they can look at it if they are also trying to do something into the future as well.
John, did you have another question? All right, thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to make comment?
Just one minor comment.
Sian?
Awesome report. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to, for the record, say there were 3 pages on there with a photo that I took. And I was going to ask for photo cred, but I see on page 28 you shared the Melbourne Community Board post, so that's really cool. And it's really awesome to see that public engagement is definitely helping the process and getting the feedback to the council. It's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I would have to endorse that, Ben, or what Sian is saying. I think at least you've given the community the opportunity of saying what they would request and what they may want. I just hope that the council listens to the community's requests and the ideas that you and your team are putting forward. I congratulate you on it. If there's no further business, sorry, Ben.
Just to say, that's why we're going back with those options. You can keep us in check there, just making sure that we're hearing and remembering those things that are coming through. So yeah, keep giving that feedback in the process. That's great.
Thank you. Okay, I'm prepared to put the report. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Right, next item. Financial report. Now, are you going to do that instead of Sarah, no doubt?
Yes.
Right.
Unfortunately,
Okay,
you've got
thank
me
you, Steve.
again. So yeah, thank you. I guess off the back of a really useful conversation with the board on the 12th of May and preceding board meeting, just presenting the statement of where your accounts are, and happy to take any questions. Hopefully we've got the plain language explanations better, right? If not, I'll take accountability for that.
Calvin.
Yeah, thank you for working on that plain language, Steve, and it's quite easy to read now and we can understand where we're heading. It looks like I mentioned before about running at a 30,000 loss over the year. We'd at this stage should be at 24,000 loss. We're only at 15, which means that we're underspending by 9,000 to this point, which is end of April. So that's a positive thing in that we're underspending, and we're maintaining more of that surplus, which is good. Although a little bit of word of caution to everybody is that obviously accounts are notorious for catching up a month or two later, and things take time to get through big systems. So that 9,000 is not a big saving. It's possibly going to be utilised, but our budgets are generally looking okay. There is a few that have been gone over, but they are minor, and we can bring it back with other things. So I think it's looking positive at the moment from a financial point of view, from what I'm looking at. But just that word of caution with people, don't go celebrating too much that we've got loads of surplus left. We haven't reached the 30th of June yet, and then it will be July or even August before we actually find out the final numbers. So thank you. Thanks again, Steve.
Yeah, I've been remiss. Just could we have a move that we accept Steve's report on behalf of Sarah, John and Calvin? Okay, it's now open for further discussion if you wish. Anybody want any discussion on it? Sian?
Just to quickly confirm, there was an item last month in relation to a payment to Melbourne News. Has that been confirmed that that's been paid?
I understand it has been, Sian. Our communication with the Melbourne News is pretty sharp when we don't pay. So, funnily enough.
Now, I'm pretty sure, just to answer that, Steve, I was up with Melbourne News only just a couple of weeks ago, and at this stage, there's nothing owing.
Yeah, so it has been paid.
So,
Mr. Chair, I'm wondering, at the start of the meeting, there was Brian and John talk to the Melbourne Writers Festival, and as we're dealing with the budget items at the moment, I'm wondering whether or not you want to deal with this now, the $80 requested, as we're talking about dollars, and you have some unspent advertising expenditure, it's whether or not you wish to go ahead on that basis.
Well, I'm perfectly happy. We were going to discuss it under general business, but I'm quite happy you take it under this report. Kelvin?
Yeah, yes, it's true. We've got some advertising in general, and $80 is a relatively small amount. And I would be supporting of that application. The only real concern I have is that yes, we have some surplus budget that we could use, but in the future, and the rest of our board and the future board, we no longer have a discretionary fund. So that would be where this sort of thing would normally come out of. So I think we should, I'm only really happy with this because it's such a small amount. But in the future, we really must have a Malvern Community Board process and procedure where local groups can apply for funding.
Yep.
And we have some sort of budget which we can use so that we can be fair to all of the groups in the whole community about applying for things like this, which are very admirable, and we should be supporting them as a community group. But we must have a
Kelvin,
process.
are you prepared to move the motion that we support?
Oh, okay, that we support this $80.
Yes, the $80?
Yes, I'm prepared to move that. motion.
Okay, is there a seconder? John? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on that? John?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I agree, because not long after I joined the board, the decision was made and the board was informed that the discretionary funding would be centralised and taken away from the board. So I think that one of the important things moving forward for the new board is to have some clarity, and maybe a position paper could come to the June meeting, which sort of said, is the board's role to provide funding? Or I think my preference would be that, given the way the council has gone about centralising the funding, that I think it's probably, in a personal view, that the board has other things to worry about rather than actually try and duplicate what's been a centralised allocation for funding.
Right, so there you've moved and seconded it. Do you want to make further discussion? Go on. You've got your light on. Do you want to? Okay, Steve, thank you.
Yeah, if I may respond to those two really good points, I think, and I recall and I come back to the representation review, and there was a section in there that talked about the delegations, and in your decision around approving the general focus on the budget, the idea is of creating and maintaining largely your operating budget as it is for the next year, but also identifying areas where the board may wish to add greater value to the community you serve. And that can be best done through the exercising of a delegation that at the moment doesn't quite exist. And I'm just wondering how the board might want to approach that opportunity on the basis of, I think we are entering into a different phase, and we would want to get that established in time for the new board to take effect. So it's more of a question back to the board as to how would you see that working? I can develop a position paper, probably not June.
We've got a motion on the table, which is what you're discussing is some relevance, but at this stage it's not the important relevance. So let's get the motion over. It's been moved and seconded that we donate $80 to this writers group. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Now, Steve, you want to sort of just remind us again.
Delegations. How do you want to have a go?
My thought would be that maybe a line item in the budget that's going to apply from the 1st of July 25 could be community board grants, and it could have a dollar figure yet to be agreed, and that would enable things like this that come up from time to time, as the chair has admirably put it, and sort of would work in conjunction and support the more major funding initiatives that have been centralised.
Calvin?
Yeah, I would back that up, John. That would be a reasonable suggestion, as the current community board is funded by targeted rate. That means that those funds are provided by the community in Malvern, which means that it would be good for the community board to return those funds direct to the community, if possible. Now, with the current centralised discretionary fund, that's obviously a Selwyn-wide-ish situation where the general rate, I believe, is providing those funds. Is it, Lydia? Yep. So that's a Selwyn district-wide thing, where this is very specific, targeted rate, produces some funds, which provides the community board and provides for our expenses, but also we should be able to at all times return some of those funds back to the community if possible. So I agree with John, something along those lines. Thank you.
Thank you, Calvin. Well, I would have to endorse those comments because I think there's, while I agree with the distribution ward-wide, it would be just nice if we've got some allocation of money that the community board can do in this type of thing. So I just think it's something, Steve, that we look to in the future. Steve?
I think that's been really valuable feedback. I think what I'll do now with our team is we'll take it away and see what I can bring back into my June report for you, with the aim that we can seek to establish some small pot that might create the opportunity for the board to do something with. And I guess the other benefit of your decision that you passed today too is we've also changed the way in which we're accessing the use of the reserves. So there may be other ways to achieve the same outcome without creating a separate line item, but because I'm also mindful of delegations needing to be updated as well. But it's been useful to talk about, so thank you for your guidance, and let me come back to you on how we might achieve the outcome you're seeking.
Thank you, Steve. Calvin?
Can I have one final comment on that, please? I'd just like to thank Erin and Brian for bringing this forward, a very minor issue, relatively speaking, but what it's done is allowed us to discuss it and understand where the issue is. So that very small thing you brought forward, which is very significant for you, has actually allowed us as a board to talk about our delegations with council and hopefully get a better future for the community board as it moves forward. And hopefully community boards in more of Selwyn as well too. Thank you, Brian. And thank you, Erin.
Thank you, Calvin. John?
Just a final one. I'd like to thank Mr. Donnelly on behalf of the Melbourne Writers Cafe for the invitation on Saturday, the 28th of June at 1:30 at Darfield Library. And I'm sure my other board members will respond, but I will accept.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, I do. All right. Look, thank you for that discussion. I'll now put the motion that we accept Steve's report on behalf. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Move on to now board reports. Sian, you're first on the agenda. Oh, am I?
Yeah, you took yourself.
Oh, it is the chairman's. And I normally let Sian go first because she's our lady member. Anyway, okay, thank you. Okay, well, my report, I will move it. All in favour, please say aye. I will leave the seconder. Right, okay. It's pretty short and sweet. So I don't wish to I would just say though, in here, that I did enjoy the Anzac services. While they weren't a thing that we should enjoy, but the way that both of them were run, Kerwee, I congratulate you. It was very well done. And, you know, for your first effort, fantastic. Okay, move on to the next one. Sian.
Thank you. I will move my report as read.
Seconded has been read by Phil.
Thank you.
Carry on, Sean.
So on Monday, Bain, last week, I attended a rural water meeting that was held in Glentunnel, hosted by the White Cliffs Residents Association. It was a really good opportunity to get a better understanding of the rural water supplies, understand some of the issues that we've heard around the table from specifically residents of Hororata, and getting a more detailed understanding of why Hororata is quite hard hit when it comes to their water supplies. I will be talking on Wednesday at a council meeting, second council meeting that's been created as the ordinary council meeting didn't get to go ahead last week. So I'll be presenting to council there with Bruce on that topic. On the 6th of May, I presented the Melbourne Community Board draft annual plan public transport submission on the public transport bus trail proposed and the fare zones, and I've attached the submission and appendices with that. As most of you have seen, there was an article in the press the following day, and I've added that as Appendix B. I met with, I don't think it was on the 6th of May, but I've met with the owner and operator of the Ferry Collective, who runs events in Methven and Bottle Lake Forest, as well as some other places in Canterbury. They would like to hold an event in Darfield. I actually approached them and after seeing an event that they were holding in Methven recently, and asked if they would consider coming out to McHugh's Forest to run one of their events there. They've since put in a funding application with Selwyn District Council and would like for the Melbourne Community Board to be involved in this event. And there's just a wee note to say if they don't get full funding through their funding applications for this event, would MCB be willing to contribute some funds? Social media. So I just wanted to give an update on where our Melbourne Community Board Facebook page stats are, because I don't think I've done that yet. So since our April meeting, there were 18 Facebook posts, and there are some insights there over the past 28 days. The post that had the most engagement was the day before my submission to ECAN. I just put a note out there to say that I would be presenting the MCB submission the following day. That got over 10,000 views. That's it.
Thank you, Sean. You're prepared to move your report?
Already have.
Oh, you have, yes.
Oh, sorry, just two other things. Verbal, I've sent around an email from the Melbourne Community Arts Council mentioning that Rob Lawrence will be stepping down as chair. And another one from the Darfield Residents Association's last meeting with their minutes that they asked me to circulate. Thank you.
Right, and any discussion on Sean's reports? I did mention in my report, congratulations for your presentation at ECAN. It obviously went down extremely well, and I think it brought a few councillors to tears, just recommending, the things that perhaps they should be looking at. And so I congratulate you on that. And so if there's any further discussion on Sean's report? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried. Right. Move on. Where's my agenda? Okay, Calvin, you're down to give a verbal report.
Okay, yeah, I've got something that I've prepared only this afternoon, and it has been emailed to everybody. So you've got it all in front of you. Yes, right, awesome. So I'll do it verbally, very quickly, and I'll explain the reason why it's verbal and not in writing. And I'm just trying to find it. Bear with me a second. Computer problems plague us all the time, don't they? Right. So my board report for May, I wrote it today, and I apologise for my extreme lateness. The main reason for that was it was about 2 meetings to do with the Sister Cities Committee that only happened. The last one was last Tuesday, so I've only just had the Wednesday, just had the opportunity to get that information together, but it needs to be here in front of the board today. So very active during April and May, lots of meetings, and given those as read. I think governance should have a copy of this as well in writing, so you can attach it to the minutes. So the verbal report is mainly about 2 of the sister city meetings. There was one last week, first one, which was a sister city review meeting. Bruce was also there. The current sister city committee of council is being reviewed by council. Tried to be brief. The options being considered are remove the committee as a committee of council, keep the status quo, i.e. keep the committee in place, or support international relationships differently. So they're the 3 options that council are considering. The cost of the committee to the community is $10,000 per year to the ratepayers. The value of the committee is very difficult to quantify commercially or otherwise. So this committee is a group of volunteers generally who don't get paid and donate a lot of their time. So the cost is literally $10,000 per year. Value is provided by the committee to education in both countries, that's in New Zealand and overseas, China, Japan, and other areas in the world. Indonesia is one. Supporting educational exchanges between schools as well. The committee members' time and enthusiasm was acknowledged and confirmed that members pay their own travel costs and donate their time at no cost. It was also acknowledged that we now live in a totally different world to when these committees and arrangements were established, in some cases over 20 years ago. So they were very haphazard in nature because communication was different 20 years ago, and they were just picked and chose between maybe 2 schools that had got relationships and built on that. So I understand council have decided to review this situation because these committees, this committee is managing a number of sister city arrangements that are quite spasmodic in nature. They're all over the place and it needs to be consolidated. So I back up that they are actually reviewing this. I'm actually on the committee as a representative of Malvern Community Board. And I'll explain that now, is that Malvern Community Board has a direct relationship with a small town of 8,000 people in the north of Japan. It's about as close to Russia as you can get in Japan, and the sea actually freezes over in Yubitsu in the winter. So we have a direct relationship, as in Malvern Community Board. It's not with Selwyn District Council. And that has been running 25 years this year. So in our budget, we have $1,000 per year allocated to support the 25-year-old Yubitsu arrangement. Every other year they come here, every other year we go there. So we as Malvern Community Board appreciate the support of the sister cities because they do the committee do a lot of arrangements for us and support us, but we have got $1,000 in our budget just for Yubitsu. Now, the other meeting I went to was the Yubitsu planning meeting, there's a trip by a group of Malvern community members going to Yubitsu this year. Normally, it would include some members of the Malvern Community Board and even the mayor at some points in the past it's included. and some of the councillors as well. So this year, the current board members are unable to travel for various reasons. So the attendees are this year, they leave on the 25th of the next month, 25th of June, is Judith Pascoe, Alison Rozowinski. Yeah, I'm reading it from how I spelt it because I've checked the spelling. And her husband, Paul. Karen Mears, Sumi Haywakawa Buist, have I got that right? Nowhere near. And her partner. So Sumi is going to be the translator, so support while they're there. So there's a group of 2, 4, 6, and the community board appreciates those going in our place. And consequently, we actually need to send a letter from the community board, from the chair, apologising for us not being there, but appreciating that other people are there. So that group comprises ex-community board members, people that have travelled to Ubitsu before, and Alison, who was involved in setting up the arrangement 25 years ago. So the group has actually requested at this meeting, the planning meeting, has requested funding from the MCB for official gifts to the Ubitsu community. The group will be providing their own individual gifts to things like homestay families where they're staying and school children. So they'll be providing a lot of stuff, and they're also providing their own travel costs. So they'll be providing individual gifts, but they're asking actually for some official funding from us. We also need a letter. I've mentioned the letter from the chair, and there's a letter being requested from Mayor Sam to send with the group on the 25th of June as well. Because although it's with Malvern Community Board, it's also a relationship that Selwyn District Council supports. So the official gifts, let's go to those because that's the crux of the thing, are proposed to be a digital photo frame with photos of Selwyn taken by Rob Lawrence and an engraved plaque celebrating the 25th anniversary and that celebrating the people that have been involved. And that plaque will be mounted against a tree that will be planted in Ubitsu during the visit. So the board has $1,000 allocated in this budget. I've just checked and double checked that now. And that's in its budget up to the 30th of June for sister cities, in brackets Ubitsu. So I'd like to move a motion that the board provides a maximum of $1,000 in funding to support the visit.
Yeah, could I, should I receive his report first and then do the motion? Yeah, I think we should receive your report first.
Okay.
And then do a special motion for what you're suggesting. So you'll move your report?
Yes, I'm moving.
Second up, Sian has seconded it. Okay, all in favour? Against? Carried. Now move to the suggestion. I have discussed this with Calvin. The money is there, but I think we've got to make it quite clear to the Sister Cities Committee that that is what they're proposing has to fall within that figure. We're not prepared to make any, well, we just haven't got the money for that. So as long as the board is aware of that, we're prepared to assist the Sister City Committee with their trip over there up to a maximum of $1,000. That's the motion before you. Now that does not include any travel or anything like that. It's purely the gifts and what has been suggested, photos and that sort of thing. So that's the motion before you. All in favour?
We need a second.
I need a second. John had seconded that, and so.
I have a question.
Sorry. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yes.
Oh, you want to say something? Right. Okay.
Sian.
Sian, come in.
Thank you. So I'm just having a look at our statement of financial performance. So I see there that for our full year budget for sister cities, we're looking at $1,000. That our actual year to date is 830. Will we use that 830 and then find the remainder of 170 from a different pot?
Calvin?
Can I answer that? Yes, the 830 is to date, so that's up to the end of April. We haven't used anything, so we've got 830. So this visit is, as I just said, 25th of June. So that would include the period up to the
Correct.
30th of June,
Correct.
which would include the 170. Because that will be projected forward.
Yeah.
So we'd be short, we'd be negative for a month or two, and then we'd be
Yeah.
right on the, that's why it needs to be a maximum of 1,000. It can't go over.
Yeah, that's as what we've got in our budget currently.
Understand. Thank
So
you.
our next round will be up to us as a suggestion, making it to the new board. So, John,
So the $1,000 maximum, is that for the photo frame and the plaque?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I have some outline estimates in place at the moment, which add up to something like that amount, although I've got to get detailed quotes.
Yeah.
I'm logistics wise, I'm going to be organising it and managing it to make sure that it doesn't, nothing happens over 1,000. I'll probably, and I need to talk to council because they have recommended engravers and recommended electrical suppliers as well. So yeah, it's for those. There's also a small contribution to Rob Lawrence for taking of the photographs.
So just for clarification, because as you know, finances isn't my area, that the $1,000 maximum is conditional on extra expenditure coming from someone else for engraving of the plaque and finalising the photo frame.
yeah, I think John, in answering that, Calvin is going to do the negotiating. He's got $1,000 and $1,000 only. If he gets it under that, it means we can carry some money over for next year. But that is the maximum. Is everybody clear on that? Okay, I'll put the motion. Calvin?
Could I just clarify that $1,000 is in the budget for exactly this
Correct.
reason? That's
Yeah,
supporting your
we have
business.
1,000
And
there
every
covered,
year, this is what happens.
which was allocated
Yeah.
for UBETSO. We haven't spent it.
Yeah.
So that's the criteria that Calvin is working under.
And the next year, the other year, when they come here.
Yeah, we'll
what
do
would-
it. It's a totally different thing.
It's normally that we'd contribute something to while they're here, rather than the other way around. So
Okay,
it's a normal situation.
I'm prepared to put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you.
General discussion, Mr. Chair.
Sorry?
General discussion on the sister city arrangement. But please.
You want some general discussion?
Brief.
I guess I can allow that, even though we've accepted the report, that's all. Carry on.
Right. That I understand there was an officer's report provided to the sister city, and you know I don't check my emails. That's my fault, so I take the consequences. So it may well be sitting there when I get home. Is there a possibility that we could get, the board members could get a copy of the officer's report to the sister city relationship committee? Because I just feel that if the board's involved, there should be an openness of communication.
You want to answer that question, Calvin?
Yep, I can confirm there is a report underway and it's under review still. It's ongoing. So I'll make sure that any reports that are produced, we get circulated to the board because we are involved just from a UBITSU point of view. Yes.
Lydia?
I might be able to help John in the fact that the other night it was a workshop with the Sister City Committee to work through and actually do the Sister City report in the right way. So the original one was revoked from a council agenda and we've engaged with, well, not me, but council has engaged with the Sister City Committee. So that's why Calvin would have been included in that. And I guess you might be able to take back and ask if you could see the slides from the workshop potentially. But they were taking feedback from the committee to form their report. And I wasn't present there, but my feedback in it was to can we look at the MOUs that we had signed with our sister cities and have a look at what is in the body of that?
Yeah.
Might be resourceful for everybody.
There was quite an in-depth discussion at the workshop. And of course, now it's being left to our meeting coming up on Thursday to discuss a number of those proposals that have been put forward and give some recommendation to council. Kelvin?
Can I have a bit of hopefully a final comment on that? So that the review meeting, thanks for highlighting the reason for it, Lydia. I was a bit confused as well. It was actually suggested that maybe community board didn't need to be involved in that meeting because we're just Ubitsu.
Yes,
but
exactly.
I spoke to Bruce, and Bruce was actually at the meeting. I was at the meeting, and Bob Mugford is also a member of that committee. So we're well represented there as Malvern, and we're making sure that the community are getting good value for money out of what we've got here. And one final comment from me is that there is an invite coming out to the community board for when they return from Ubitsu to give a report and an update of how it went and what happened on the 8th of July. So that's on its way to you shortly. So that's definitely coming forward at the moment. So
Thank you, Kelvin.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on. Phil, would you like to move your report? Seconder, Kelvin seconded it. The floor is yours.
We'll just take it as read. It's nothing really in there exciting. But yeah, I'll have a catch up with Kieran later. I didn't really want to do it in this meeting, but yeah, just that snap send solve. We're just getting the same people complaining rather than using it as a problem. After that's basically in my report regarding the reserve management after the event we had there at the Hororata domain. So it's just becoming the same people reporting just for the sake of reporting. And that's it. And then a lot happens in the council behind the scenes with emails flying and what's the damage done and so forth when there hasn't been anything done. It's just over exaggeration. So it's a bit frustrating, without actually coming out and looking what the problem is, making decisions before, and then it blows up into a big problem. So just moving forward, I'll just be wary of that. And it's just funny, out of that, there was 3 snap send solves from that large event. And I named the 3 people before they could, and even though they're not allowed to tell you who they are, and I said they'll be that. Yes, they are.
Okay, thanks, Phil. It's been moved and seconded. Is any discussion on it? The only thing I would, yes, yeah, righto, Sian. Yeah, the only thing I you speak first, Sian.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to say well done to Go Hororata on the Glow Festival. That was really cool. Got lots of feedback on everyone around Melbourne seeing the balloons, and it just brought a different flair, not just to Hororata, but to all of Melbourne for that week. So well done, Go Hororata on that one.
Thank you.
Just a clarification on that. It's actually run by the Hororata Trust.
Yep.
It's not actually Go Hororata. It's the residents group.
No, I would just congratulate you on that event too. From the reports that I've heard and the reports that were in the paper, it was a well done event. Right, our next report is in the hands of John. It's been seconded by Phil. It's open for discussion.
Would
would just like to add that in relation to the dangerous buildings material, that was circulated to the board members and the residents groups, and the feedback that was received by the due date was incorporated and submitted. And I've got a speaking slot on the 5th of June to the council. And just for clarity, the technical aspects are well beyond my expertise. It was more just the human factors that I was focusing on behalf of the board.
Are there any other comments, John, you wish to make on your report?
No.
You did make a request here, though, that traffic roading officers could visit the Adams Road, Greendale Road. You want to specifically point that out to Steve?
Yes, so my apologies, Mr. Very, I haven't been able to get that response to you, but I have worked with our road safety coordinator and our operations manager to both to consider 3 of your transport related questions, and I will have a response back to you within the next 24 hours. I had thought I'd sent that. My apologies.
No need to apologise. I understand what life is like in an efficient working council, so I have every confidence that when a request is made, it will be answered.
That gives no further discussion on John's report. I will put it all in favour. Against? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Glynn, Lydia.
I, at the last meeting, indicated that we needed to look at state highway speeds and safety for our township. So what I formulated is just a very basic.
Sorry, Lydia, I can't hear you. Is your mic on?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
You didn't miss anything, Sian. Basically, in this report, I've formulated some very basic maps around our state highways and our townships that sit alongside those. So I welcome feedback from you. What I've incorporated onto those is just some very basic correspondence that I've had with some of our community associations, and then I'll take feedback from you, incorporate that into them, and then send them on to our community associations where they may contact myself or whoever is their representative regarding those. There is now, Bruce, I know you've brought up West Melton, but I don't have in any of my correspondence what you would like to see in West Melton with speeds.
Well, we've got the chair here from West Melton, but as I understand, you still would like the speeds a lot slower. There's no question about that. We originally wanted 50 k's here on the state highway. They gave us 60. They gave us 70 for a start, and we've got them now down to 60. But we still wanted to see 50. And even though we've got a good set of lights and working things well, Sam, you just want to make a brief comment as chair of the business association.
Ahoy hoy. Sorry, I hadn't planned to speak. Yeah, it would be great if we could lower the speed limit through West Melton. Obviously, the lights are great at that end for people who are maybe accessing the domain for rugby or tennis, although I know that's going to change. But a lot of people are still doing the dart of death and racing across the road here. There was a lot of talk about speed mitigation, like pedestrian islands that were going down. I don't know what they call them, traffic easement islands, calming islands, lots of names for them.
Pedestrian refuge.
Yeah, refuse? No, sorry. Down West Melton Road, just before Preston Downs, and then that's sort of gone all a bit quiet. So we've heard nothing else. We heard a lot of hey, yeah, let's do it. But that's all sort of gone. And while I'm talking, can we get that fixed? That given that this is an emergency response building, that leak looks rather detrimental to it, and also all Well, the tiles in here are lifting, obviously, because a torrent of water has come through.
That's a different matter.
Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah.
just while we're here.
With Samuel, can I request that you send me an indicative map of the areas that you would like to see the speed limit from?
Cool,
That'd be great.
easy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think the other areas, I know, the township is wanting reduced as well, but, that's largely controlled by council anyway, the roads around here.
That's a different, yeah, it's a different remit. What I'm
Yeah, it's a
looking at
diff-
is
exactly.
the state
Yeah,
highway,
yeah.
so I'm happy to take any feedback from board members. I also just wanted to note that as in my coming up is the first look at the annual plan, which is the 4th of June, and a public meeting at 11 AM, which might be of interest to board members. And I sent correspondence to the Kerwee Residents Association this morning that we've managed to roll over the tourism infrastructure funding that we have for the Kerwee toilets. MBIE have confirmed that they will hold that until Q1 2026. So we need to get cracking on NZTA quick smart.
Thank you. Phil?
Yeah, just Lydia. We're also looking at intersections on those state highways, the major, so that Leach's Way run that's been talked about for many years and had multiple fatalities. Thank you.
Okay, anything further? It's John?
Yeah. Lydia, if there's anything concrete that I can do, can you just let me know? Thank you.
Sian?
Yeah, just my feedback is what you've got in your report looks very much like all the feedback we've had in our workshops with the residents associations and conversations that I've had with constituents. Looks good.
Anything further, Lydia, that you want to discuss? Okay, I'll put the motion that we receive Lydia's report. All in favour? Against, carried. Thank you. Now, that gives us, now, Sian, you mentioned something you wanted to bring up under general business, or did you make that part of your report? I mightn't have just heard it, that's all. There was
On the 31st of May, the nominations for the Selwyn Awards close. So I just wanted to raise in this meeting whether MCB wanted to make some nominations. I don't think we did last time. I know I personally made a nomination, but yeah, I just thought I'd raise it because this is our last chance.
Okay. All right, is there anything further that anybody wants to bring up? Because I'm about to close the meeting.
Are we going to maybe discuss whether we want to make nominations
Well,
for
I
the
think
Selwyn
the thing
Awards?
is, I was going to suggest though, that we'll have a community meeting, won't we? Of residents prior to that.
It closes on, nominations close May 31st. We don't have time to wait till then.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, look, Lee, I'll open it. Yeah, agreed. Does anybody wish to make a nomination? Calvin?
Could I make a comment? It's the Selwyn Business Awards you're talking about, isn't it, Sean?
So it's open for businesses, groups and individuals.
Yeah.
And there are 10 categories.
Yeah, there's a number of areas where you can nominate.
Yeah, I'm personally putting one in, but that's a separate
Sorry?
issue. I'm personally putting one in,
Oh, well, that's fine.
but that's a separate issue totally.
You
But
want
yeah,
to
we
put that
should
in on,
discuss.
you want to
whether-
put that in on behalf of the community board, or like, you
No,
don't have to
no.
name it now.
No, I don't. That's a personal thing. But we should discuss whether we have any businesses or groups that within our communities, within Selwyn, that whether we are going to put something forward. Yes, definitely.
I personally have some in mind. I was thinking the Darfield Residents Association for the work that they've done since they were formed, including taking on the Darfield Jail and bringing in a Santa parade, and also the Kerwee Residents Association for the work that they've done on Anzac Lane. I was also thinking potentially the Darfield Food Bank. I'm sure everyone's seen the article that was written in relation to the work that they do recently. And maybe the Hororata Trust as well for the Glow Festival.
Okay, thank you. John?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I feel that given the shortness of time between now and when nominations close and various conflicts of interest, perceived or real, that may arise, that I personally feel uneasy about the board in such a short space of time, considering making nominations which have quite major implications.
Okay, well, what I'm suggesting is that doesn't have to be part of this meeting anyway, does it? It doesn't really have to be part of this meeting. We can do it after the meeting anyway, or once we've had a discussion. Is everybody happy with that?
Mr. Chair, I would rather, for transparency, have any board member, as they're entitled to make any nomination. I just feel a conversation offline doesn't sit easily with my focus on transparency.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. We'll take, Sian, what you've proposed, we'll do that as something informal, I think, rather than put it through an official meeting. Lydia?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I was just going to advise that if people wanted to put submissions in, they could do it on a personal note. And when you talk about conflicts of interest, the fact that people can self-nominate, you know, I think if people just do it personally, then
Correct.
I think it's all
Yeah.
clear cut, since there isn't a lot of time between now and the 31st.
Thank you.
My conflict of interest related to the board, not to any individuals putting any in.
Correct. No, I appreciate that, John. Okay, well, I'm going to close the discussion. If there's nothing further, once again, I thank you for your participation. I thank the members of the community for attending. It's nice to see that we've got still interest in the community board. I would also like to say at this stage that, as has been already recorded, people have made themselves available for other things other than the community board. I think if you know people within the Melbourne area who are interested in any shape or form of wanting more information on the community board, they're very well, I'm willing to ring them to ring me. I'm also, I know any of the other board members would give that. I've already had 6 people ring me seeking what is the community board, what's it about. So we want to encourage certainly an election coming up in October. So with that, again, Steve, to you and the council staff, I thank you for your participation. And with that, I declare the meeting closed.